Alrighty, second graders. So yesterday you guys came up or wrote your story out for the first time. So you wrote out your beginning, your middle, and your end. In the beginning, that one page that you used for the beginning, remember you introduced your characters and your setting. On the second paper, you wrote your middle, which remember you introduced your problem. And then on your third piece of paper, you wrote your ending, which remember had the solution and the ending of the story. I want you to think to yourself again today. Did you yesterday or earlier today, did you finish your beginning, middle, and end? So did you write on 3 pieces of paper your beginning, your middle, and your end? If the answer is no, stop this video, go back to yesterday's video, and I want you to rewatch it and do what it says. It is super important that you follow each step, okay guys? If your answer is yes, I did write my whole story, the beginning, the middle, and the end, then you are ready for revising. That means we're going to make it even better. We're going to try and make sure that our story sounds just like we want it. We'll make any changes and we'll add some things to make it sound even better, okay? So I'm going to turn to my beginning. So I want you guys to get out your beginning, okay? Get out your beginning and also get out a colorful something. So whether it's a colored pencil, a pen like mine, markers are probably a little too, it's not a good tool. So either a pen or a colored pencil, okay, of another color. Mine is pink. So I've turned to my beginning page and I'm going to read it one time through and just make sure everything sounds okay. So I said, last year, Sonia and Sammy were playing at recess. I started with a capital and I ended with a period. I'm good. Now let me think here. How can I add detail? Well, let me think about my 5 senses. So things that the characters might be hearing. What might they be eating or tasting? What might they be smelling or seeing? And I can also look at my picture. And I already see okay, they're holding hands, they're happy and joyful. So maybe I can add a detail about that. And so I wrote down here in this pen, I wrote this added thing. They laughed, because that's something that you might hear. They're laughing together. They laughed and held hands as they skipped around the playground. I didn't have that before, but it's adding more detail as to the setting and the characters. They're laughing and having fun together, and I'm showing that with my words. So now it's even juicier. Instead of just saying, last year Sonia and Sammy were playing at recess, now it says, last year Sonia and Sammy were playing at recess. They laughed and held hands as they skipped around the playground. You can almost picture them doing that, right? Just from my words, I was able to let you see what's happening. So now you pick something you can add to your beginning. Maybe look at your picture and see, was there something I left out that my characters were doing? Was there something that they were hearing? Was there something they were smelling or touching? Like they were holding each other's hands, right? So think of one detail, one thing that you can add to your beginning to make it sound even juicier and give us some words to show us what was going on, okay? So stop my video and go do that. All right, at this point, you should have stopped the video and you should have written one thing in another color for your beginning. How can you add a detail in there? Now I want you to flip to your middle. So this is your problem. So you should take out your paper that has the word middle on the top, and it is your problem. Okay. So I first had, let me read what I used to have. I had all of a sudden, Sonia and Sammy run into Alex. Sammy yells, "Go away, Alex. You are gross and no one likes you." Just so you know, as I read this for the first time again, I realized I don't like the sound. And this happened last year. It didn't happen this year. It happened last year. It's not something that happened just today or right now. So I need to make sure that my words match. Instead of Sammy run into Alex, no, Sammy and Sonia ran into Alex, because that happened in the past. Okay? And I also accidentally said yells. Sammy yells, "Go away." Since it happened last year, a while ago, I need to use yelled. Sammy yelled. So that's why I crossed out yells and wrote the word yelled. And the last thing that I crossed off was I wrote, instead of you are gross, I thought it would sound more natural if I wrote your. Like you are put together is your. You're gross. So just so you know, I did make some of those changes. So if you're reading your story and you see, ooh, that doesn't sound right, you can easily just change things, just like I did, okay? But that's not what we're fully focusing on right now. What we are focusing on right now is adding details. So looking at your middle, how can I add some more detail? Let me think. So I already talked about how Sammy says, like, "Go away, you're gross," right? What else could I be missing? I'm looking at Sonia, who's looking at Sammy like, "Oh, I don't know about that." And I even drew like Alex sad. So maybe I can talk about like tears in her eyes because she's getting sad. And I can show you that by describing what's happening to her eyes. Maybe people are laughing too, because like that's something you might hear as Sammy makes fun of her. So let's see, I could add, here's what I added in this pen. I added this just now. So I put, some people snickered. Snickered is another word for laughed. But it's like a mean laugh, like, snicker. Some people snickered and pointed at Alex. Sonia watched tears fill Alex's eyes. Do you see that? I added more detail to show you what's happening. Before, I just had, all of a sudden, Sonia and Sammy ran into Alex. Sammy yelled, "Go away, Alex. You're gross and no one likes you." That's what I used to have. But now I added a detail. Ready? It says, all of a sudden, Sonia and Sammy ran into Alex. Sammy yelled, "Go away, Alex. You're gross and no one likes you." Some people snickered and pointed at Alex. Sonia watched tears fill Alex's eyes. It gives you so much more of a picture of what's happening with Alex and Sonia as she's being mean. So now I want you to stop the video and I want you to read your middle. After you read it, pick one detail. What else can you add? What else is happening? Is there anything that the other characters are seeing, hearing, touching, feeling? And add one detail in another color, just like I did. Make it nice and juicy for your readers. Okay. I hope you stopped and you wrote your detail in there. If not, go do that. All right, the last page you need to go to is your end. So let me read you what I had for my end. I had, afterwards, Sonia said, "Hey, that's mean. You need to treat her with kindness." Sammy was surprised, and then she felt bad, so she apologized and asked Alex to play with them. By the way, again, when I was reading, I accidentally said says, and I wanted it to say she said, because it was in the past, just so you know. But now I have to think of a detail that I can add, okay? So what can I say about this? Something that might have happened. Okay, the only thing I can think of that I can add is, if you see here, Alex is smiling And maybe because I described her eyes filling with tears in my middle, maybe in my end page I can talk about how she started to smile. So maybe I can put that in. And that's what I wrote down here. A smile started to appear on Alex's face. I did that in a separate color because I just added it. A smile started to appear on Alex's face. But I didn't want that to be at the very end because that would be weird. Like, I didn't like it being at the end where, you know, it says Sammy was surprised and then she felt bad, so she apologized and asked Alex to play with them. A smile started to appear on Alex's face. I could put it there, but I don't really want it there. I actually want it right after Sonia stands up for her. So I put an arrow, like I wrote it down here because that's the only place I had space. And then I put an arrow to where I want it to be. So it's going to read like this. I used to have this. Afterwards, Sonia said, "Hey, that's mean. You need to treat her with kindness." Sammy was surprised, and then she felt bad, so she apologized and asked Alex to play with them. But now I added a detail. So this is what it will sound like all together, now that I've added my juicy detail. It says, afterwards, Sonia said, "Hey, that's mean. You need to treat her with kindness." A smile started to appear on Alex's face. Sammy was surprised, and then she felt bad, so she apologized and asked Alex to play with them. And there you have it, guys. I have added a detail for my beginning, my middle, and my end. So now my story is super juicy and has a lot of details. You make sure that you do the same. I hope you followed along and you added details to your beginning, your middle, and your end to make it nice and juicy so that when your readers are reading, they can picture in their heads what is happening because you're using words that have to do with things that the characters are seeing, are hearing, are tasting, are smelling, all the things, okay? If you have not added details to your beginning, middle, and end, please go back and follow along with my video that I just did and add those details in, okay? All right, so then tomorrow you'll be ready to write out your story on KidBlog and publish it, okay? That's tomorrow. But today, you work on making it even better, even juicier than it already is. All right, guys, on Seesaw, you need to take a picture of your beginning, middle, and end. And the way that I know you did your work is if you have another color. So I'll see, ooh, Mrs. Davis has pink here. This is what she added today. And ooh, Mrs. Davis has more pink in her ending. This is what she added. So I should see 3 pictures, your beginning, your middle, and your end. And I should see another color in there because you added your detail. All right, guys, can't wait to see what you've added and how you've made your story even juicier than before.